Welcome to playoff edition of Turn Up Bear Down. Though the Bears are not playing in the playoffs, we're here to talk about the games of the week. So let's talk about our weekly reaction. The Chiefs end up winning a nail biter, 13-12 over the Chargers, in a game that featured literally nobody of importance. The Chiefs were able to get the win, get to 11 wins on the season. A bad year for the Chiefs, and they get 11 wins, and they're a third seed in the AFC. And then for the Bears, really frustrating performance, a bad loss to the Packers. Well, not necessarily a bad loss, but a bad loss because of the Packers, 17-9. Um, this image alone shows a lot because you have Feeney, who is the snapper. Honestly, like
He was
something
awful.
something we really gotta throw in there that those who defend Fields definitely have to say is you can't do a lot when you have guys coming right up the gaps. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. If the gaps are not there and nobody's open, which it looked like often on the replays, you're probably not going to get much done. But Bear season's over. The Chiefs are moving on to the playoffs. We're going to talk about the games for Super Wildcard weekend and try to get a little bit of a breakdown just of like the general state of each game. So, what do you got for us for weekly
Hey,
reactions?
yeah, so death, taxes, and the Bears lose to the Packers is what my life's been. So that was that. That was a gleaming a gleaming spritz of optimism, just absolutely crushed again. But look around the league, man. Philly gets Jalen Hurts. He gets hurt. AJ Brown gets hurt. Philly literally limps from going from the Super Bowl last year and looking like a repeat, team for 3/4 of the season. Man, they limped in. They literally limped into playoffs. Didn't look good. They've lost pretty much, I think, the nation's optimism that they're going to be a team that's going to be able to come back and repeat. You know, Also on the AFC side, Texans beat the Colts kind of on a weird play, fourth down, back shoulder, kind of a wheel route to that running back, probably gets the first down there. They sneak into the playoffs, but CJ Stroud, his offensive campaign continued, and probably the best who won the day is Buffalo, because they go from being the sixth seed, possibly the six, possibly the seven, to the two seed, hosting a home game, jumping on tables and breaking your back. So Bills Mafia probably got the most out of last week. As far as us, just touching on that, as much as I thought that game was going to reveal what the future could look like, it didn't, because the offense didn't do anything and the defense slowly got worked all day. I mean, they really didn't do much other than that sack. So Eberflus is still there, which I'm a little bit upset about, but they fire some people. Getsy gets to go, so that's cool, but we knew that was going to happen anyway. So wish I would have got some more answers in it, but now the playoffs set, and it's like just like my wife asked me, when do the Bears play this week? They don't. So we are already looking at the draft. So gotta love that as a franchise.
Yeah, one playoff appearance in what since the 2010 season. I guess we've been there twice, and I gotta remember the Super Wild Card weekend, the 8-8 season. But so we're there in 2020, we're there in 18, and we're there in 2010, and that's been it in what 13 years. Not very good. It's been rough. So hopefully we'll figure it out. We got a lot to talk about with the Bears in a different podcast just to break down all the stuff that's going on. But we'll kind of wait and see what unravels in the next couple of weeks to months.
Hey, you know what's crazy is I think the team, what was it, 2014? Yeah, it was a 2013 season, but it was 2014. I think that was the best team to go as far as possible. That was the Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall, Forte, Cutler, and I think there was still some of those pieces still on defense. I mean, it wasn't what it was, but I think that was the best team that never made the playoffs to go as far as possible.
That team was 8-6. They played Philadelphia with the chance to win the division. Got
Awesome.
absolutely destroyed. It was like 11-54, and then
Really.
that was the 4th and 8 game. Julius Peppers had Aaron Rodgers sacked, and he shakes out of it, hits Randall Cobb, and then we had a chance to win the game even after that with like 40 some seconds, and Cutler like couldn't get it done. He did hit Brandon Marshall at like the 20-yard line, and Marshall dropped it. I just know because I watched the recap the Packers game this week. I was watching a bunch of old Packers Bears games, so lost 28-27 in that one, or 33-28 actually, because Keller and the guys did play a really good game. That was also the fumble that happened, and the Packers picked up and ran in for a touchdown. That was crazy, crazy game. So anyway, let's look at some playoffs.
Yeah, right.
Playoffs. So the Ravens and the Niners, top seeds, don't have to play this week. We got the Steelers, and what is Rudolph their third string quarterback? I guess he is behind Pickett and Trubisky, but he's starting. He's been playing pretty well overall against Josh Allen and the Bills. That should be a fun one. We got the Dolphins, who've never won, or two has never won a game in 45-degree weather or colder. It's going to be like -4, -5 with a crazy wind chill at Arrowhead on Saturday night. People are selling
Free
their
ticket.
people are selling their tickets left and right. The Browns take on the Texans. That should be a really fun one because don't underestimate Joe Flacco, but really don't underestimate the Browns defense. The Browns defense is scary good. But it'll be fun to see CJ Stroud, and all of Houston will be excited for that one as well. And then going to our conference, it should be fun to watch the Packers and the Cowboys. I remember a couple other games between them in the playoffs that were really fun games to watch, but it'll be interesting to see. I know the Packers just made it in, but they've honestly looked good lately. Um, they did beat the Bears, and they beat like the Panthers, and I'm forgetting who else they beat, but they didn't really beat a lot of good teams down the stretch to get to the playoffs. If you look at the records, the Vikings that were with like a rookie quarterback, still they played really well against us, and Love looked everything a franchise quarterback should, and I think they might have a chance in that one. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Very intriguing. Matthew Stafford takes the Rams into Detroit, and the Lions get to host their first playoff game that I can ever remember because I think the last one they hosted was in either like '93. I think it was like '93, which is
Yeah,
the year I
right.
was born. So actually, I don't think I was alive yet because that probably was January of '93. Uh, the Eagles and the Bucks. This is a weird one here. Like as good as the Eagles looked, they really don't look good now. But the Bucks don't really like strike fear into anybody's hearts either. So interesting games. Which games are you most excited to watch this weekend?
Yeah, I know. It's the storylines lined up perfectly. It's kind of ironic that that happened, right, Roger? So
Scripted.
just yeah, it seems to be scripted. I mean, with just everything that lines up, but obviously a lot happens in the off season and players playing a lot of teams nowadays. So I mean, I can see how it's just it happened and the media, just put together that narrative. But lot of cool matchups, rematchups, based on the former teams. I think that's awesome. That's a cool element. Let's be honest though, when the game happens, it's all about the game. So this is just pre-game hype building up. They want people watching. I think a lot of people will be watching because if I'm not mistaken, this is pretty early in the years of them adding teams to the playoffs. So more matchups. I think both teams used to get a bye, so they added that one team. Now only one team gets a bye. San Fran and Baltimore get to lay back and rest up. So, um, yeah, like I said, I mean, honestly, probably the game that I'm looking forward to the least is the Philly Tampa Bay game. I'm pretty pretty indifferent about that game. I think if Philly's healthy, they were absolutely roll Tampa Bay. But I also think I would like to see Philly win that game, not because I like Nick Sirianni, but because I think it's better for the playoffs if they get to play another week and maybe get healthy. And then they're going to push teams like San Fran and Dallas and other teams like that. So I do think for the sake of competition in the playoffs, it's better if Philly wins. Because if Tampa Bay wins, honestly, I think they go and they lose. They're a layup for the next round. So what will happen, I don't know, especially if they go to San Fran, is it literally that spread will be over 13 and a half at least. On the AFC side, yeah, obviously being down here by Kansas City, it's awesome that the Chiefs, get to host again. Isn't it crazy to think like how many home games Patrick Mahomes has played? Uh,
Well,
truly,
he's never played a bye game in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure
truly truly a blessing to have that luxury.
an away
But
game in the playoffs.
he's been very good at home, and at some point though, if they advance past this round, you're probably talking about them possibly playing a road game. So, but that's another test for them. That's part of his legacy. And I would say this Cleveland Texans game has got a little bit of intrigue too because Joe Flacco and really offense left for dead with Nick Chubb and being out, and now you have Joe Flacco and Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt running your offense. It's definitely going to be, I think, the highest scoring of the weekend is probably that. It's 44.5. I think it goes way over that in the 50s somewhere. So could see some fireworks. That LA Detroit game I think is going to be high scoring too. Just indoor. Typically that's what happens. Both offenses are good. Both defenses are hit and miss sometimes. So that's what I'm looking at least.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We talked about a couple of these games, but I feel like if the Chiefs if things happen the way they could or should, potentially if the Bills get upset, then all of a sudden the Steelers go to the Ravens, and either the Browns or the Texans come to the Chiefs. So the Chiefs could still end up potentially not having a road game until maybe the AFC Championship if things work out for them. But in the NFC, I mean, lots of fun matchups. So like if the Lions and the Cowboys win, then we could see the rematch of that crazy game where the guy reported but they didn't call him as reporting. Um, Also, the Bucks and the Eagles are our Monday night playoff game, so that'll be really fun because they're all in themselves. So anyway, lots of intriguing things to watch for. Um, do you want to talk about predictions, or do you want to go through?
Let's go through. Yeah, let's go through your team picks and my team picks. Let's roll with that.
All
Let's
right.
give the people what they want.
Well, I got them right here. I'm taking the Bills to beat the Steelers. The Chiefs are going to beat the Dolphins because it's cold. It's Mahomes. It's Arrowhead. The Cowboys are going to beat the Packers. I think it'll be close though. I think the Packers will put up a good fight. The Eagles are going to beat the Bucks. The Bucks played really bad in the last two games of the season, which I guess shouldn't mean much because the Eagles played bad too. But the Eagles have the Bucks number. I like the Lions. I like them to get their playoff win here. I think they got a lot of good energy and momentum going forward, especially after they got ripped off in that Cowboy game. And then I think that the Browns are going to surprise some people. Their defense is just so elite, and Flacco's good enough, but the defense is really what gets people. And they beat a lot of teams this year. I didn't even realize how many good teams they beat until like looking back at it because most they beat like the Niners this year. They beat the Ravens, both of the one seeds lost to the Browns this year with like random quarterbacks playing. The Bears backup to start the season, well, in all of preseason, the Bears backup got cut and started it against the Niners and beat the Niners with the Browns. So that says a lot. All right, I'll go back to that other. Who are you taking this week?
Yeah, so our picks are pretty close. I even have Cleveland winning as well. From on the NFC side, you know, let's just talk about Green Bay Dallas. First off, Green Bay is playing with house money. They've already had a successful season, and I mean credit Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love. It's not set in stone, but I think you're starting to see why they moved on from Aaron Rodgers, and that's not to take anything away from Aaron Rodgers. It's just they have an Aaron Rodgers-esque player as far as the mechanics, and you're starting to see that he fits their scheme on offense and as the leader of their team. So they're playing with house money. I think if this game's in Green Bay, I actually think Green Bay has a chance to win this game. But I think Dallas takes care of business. I think they've been night and day on the road and home. And even though Dak had a nice away game to finish the year, I think they're a totally different offense. I think they have a chance to put 40 points up and run away with this game. I don't know if Green Bay is going to be able to score as much as they do. Wouldn't shock me if Green Bay won either, but honestly, Dallas, I think, rolls in a landslide here. As far as that LA Detroit, I'm not hating on the NFC North. I think this game will be determined by one thing, and I think it's going to be, do the Rams get to Jared Goff? If the Rams get to Jared Goff and passing downs, I think the Rams win, and that's who I'm going to take. I took the Rams over Detroit. Dome team going to Dome, Stafford returning. Stafford should be just at home under center there, and all the throws are going to be good if he stays clean. But I'm going to take LA to upset Detroit. And I know that's going to hurt Lions fans because they hosted a their first one, like you said, since what, 93. It's been a while, and I think it's going to be one of those games that people just scratch their head because the Detroit Lions are way better on paper. They've been a better team this year. Dan Campbell's an absolute monster. But I think that LA does enough. I think that offense does enough to win. I already talked about Philly, Tampa Bay. I think the Chiefs win. I think it's a low scoring game. Kind of what I had heard and read earlier was, the Chiefs are really vulnerable at the tackle position, left and right tackle. They're the most penalized pair in the league, but the Dolphins don't have Phillips or Chubb. They're both hurt. So Miami really can't expose Kansas City like they'd like to. And I think Kelsey does enough in the passing game to get them over the top. And Patty doesn't lose at home. That's a fact. Last game, and I'm knocking on wood as we speak because I got Chiefs fans yelling at me right now. Buffalo and Pittsburgh, I think, man, I'd like to see it with a different quarterback, but Mason Rudolph has been playing well. I think Buffalo has all the momentum. I think they are a team that they can beat Baltimore. I think Buffalo could easily be in the Super Bowl. I think they could beat Kansas City. I'm not saying that they will, but I just think that they've now that they've beat them. I think that there's definitely confidence. I definitely think even if they have to go to Arrowhead, which they wouldn't, they would have to go to Buffalo. So there's definitely some tough matchups. I do think Buffalo cruises in Pittsburgh. I don't think they are able to score as much. So depending on who we see there, it looks like then Cleveland will go to Baltimore, and I'm going to stick with. I'm a week ahead, Scott. I'm going to stick with Cleveland upsetting Baltimore if they win this week because I think obviously, like you said, they're the one team in the AFC that I feel the most comfortable going into Baltimore and winning, and that includes the Chiefs or the Bills. So
That's big. That's big.
in bold.
All right. So we got some specific predictions here. Who's going to have the most passing yards this week? You got what? There's 12 teams playing?
Yeah, I went with Dak. The Packers have been the worst team in the NFL between the hashes at allowing QBR. So
yeah, they looked pretty good last week.
QBR was like 80. It's like Dak's got like an 88.6 QBR in between the hashes this year. Or excuse me, the Packers have allowed. And Dak has put up that number. So I think that's an area of vulnerability, and I think CeeDee Lamb is an absolute freak. He needs to be regarded as the best receiver in the game.
Yeah, I think Dak is a good pick, solid pick. I'll go with, to mix it up, I'll go with Josh Allen. He likes to put up big numbers. Although that's probably not a very good pick because the Steelers' defense is pretty solid as well. Though TJ Watt is not playing in that game, so anytime a Watt brother is not playing in a game, it's a pretty big deal. So I'll take Josh Allen. I wanted to take Mahomes, but it's going to be cold. And, I mean, he'll probably end up throwing for 350, but I feel like it's going to be a good defensive run it game. I think both teams are going to struggle to pass the ball a lot in that game. The
Chiefs get down big. I can see him being the one. Yeah, he would put the team on his back.
Yeah, I just don't feel like that's going to happen in that game. I feel like those are the games where people are always like, "Yep, this is why I got to be able to run the football and play defense in the playoffs because of games like these." Yep. Speaking of running, who's going to have the most rush yards this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to say Kyron Williams. I mean, he helped me win a few fantasy championships this year, and he's been dominant, and they've been leaning heavy on him. And Detroit has not been great against the run. I mean, honestly, Aiden Hutchinson, they got some guys to go get the passer, but they've been exposed even by the Chicago Bears in the run game. So I'm going to go Kyron.
I'm going to take this is going to be, oh man, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm going to take a guy that used to be a Bear. I'll say David Montgomery, and here's why. Because that's the same game, actually. I just feel like they're going to lean on a guy with some experience. I guess he's played in a playoff game, technically. The Slime Time game back in 2021. But I feel like he'll be able to get it done. He's really a factor in that offense, but I mean, I like Gibbs as well, so they'll probably both have a lot of yards. But if I had to take one team, I'd say the Lions, but I'll take Montgomery. It'll probably backfire, but that would help Jared Goff as well in the pass rush that you were saying would hurt them. All right, most receiving yards. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, you're good. I was just gonna say I think Amara could easily score. You got to keep in mind they don't have Laporta. Like
Mm,
he's done.
that was big.
So they're gonna have to lean on Amara a little bit more to catch passes. I could see him scoring.
Yeah. All right. So most receiving yards this week. Who are you taking?
Most receiving, yeah, I have Puka. I have Puka Nakua, man. Well, like everyone's gonna obviously people know about him. Detroit's not gonna forget about him, but I still think teams shut down Cooper Cup, and I think Puka has learned everything from Cooper, and I think that's who gets loose this weekend against Detroit.
I'm just gonna take the guy who I would consider the best, maybe, or at least one of the most successful, but because Puka had a pretty good season. But I'll take C.D. Lamb in that Packers Cowboys game. It's gonna be a good weather game because it's inside on the turf. If it gets into a shootout, I would feel like C.D. Lamb's gonna get a lot of yards in that game. So I'll look for him. Nice, yeah, C.D. Lamb. Okay, which team is gonna have the best defensive game, or you could even say player?
Yeah, I think like the best game to watch. Or no, we're on defense here.
Defensive
Yeah,
game.
defense. I'm gonna go Buffalo. Just because honestly, like the only way I think that Pittsburgh wins is if they run the ball, and so I think they know that. I think Mason Rudolph can make throws. He is not anyone that you can't game plan for, but he's not a game. I don't think he's a game wrecker. I don't think he influences the game that much. I think he's still pretty green as far as his ability to really impact the game solely on him. So I think he works well when they're running the ball well, and I think Buffalo shuts that down. And I think that's an absolute snowball of a game. So I think
Is it
the
gonna? It
weather
might
is going to
snow
be
there
snow.
too. Yeah, lake effect
Exactly, and
snow.
that's what I mean by that is it's going to be weather of pure defense. Unders are hitting left and right. Take the first half under, something like 3-7, and I think Buffalo holds the Pittsburgh pretty quiet.
I think that I'm gonna stick with the Cleveland Browns, even though they're taking on the offensive rookie of the year, and C.J. Stroud. I just feel like their defense is so solid that they're gonna really play a good, tough game. I wish I had it on me right now, but I want to know if those two play each other this year, the Browns and the Texans. I don't know that they did. We'll have to have somebody fact check that. But I feel like the Browns are gonna give CJ Stroud some troubles just because their defense is so good. And I mean, he made almost everybody in the NFL look bad this year, like we were saying, or the Browns defense did. So, all right, that leaves us with one final question for Super Wildcard Weekend. Question prediction: Who is going to have the best game? Which teams are going to play in the best game this year?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Browns Texans only because I think there's gonna be a lot of points scored. Not the Browns defense is legit, but I think in Houston, I think CJ will be able to get kind of some stuff rolling. I just think ultimately they will be able to get and affect him enough. And I think it's so weird. It's so weird that like we're talking about Joe Flacco and like a high scoring offense, and really up until this point they just have Amari Cooper, and all of a sudden, oh, there's David Njoku. He's an absolute monster. I mean, he's resurrected his career this year. I mean, this is the best year that he's had. So yeah, I think on a weekend where you see Mother Nature taking over the Midwest, I think an indoor game is probably your best bet of having the highest score. So that's where I'm going with that. I think that game is unpredictable. Both teams could win, and I think the scoring will be up at least in the 20s.
Yeah. Well, man, we just got a report in. The Browns beat the Texans 36-22 2 weeks ago on Christmas Eve. So I guess going on 3 weeks ago. But
Raji's quick.
yeah, CJ Stroud did not play in that game, however.
So,
They were led by Davis Mills. So not the same guy, but the Browns defense kept the Texans under 250 yards of total offense, and Joe Flacco had 3 touchdowns. He did throw 2 interceptions, but 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in the game, and it was literally the same game over again. So the Browns should have some confidence going into that one, but the Texans have the surprise of playing C.J. Stroud. I think the best game overall will end up being the Rams and the Lions. I just like the stories behind both teams. I like the Stafford versus the Lions again, or the Golf versus the Rams, however you want to look at that.
Both
And
going indoor.
yeah, I think it'll just be a fun game. Um, I mean, the Detroit is going to be like so hyped, so ablaze with excitement, and it'll be fun to
Yeah.
watch. So, I mean, honestly, this is a great week because before we had the Super Wild Card week, you'd be like, there's one or two games that you feel like are going to be good, and the others are going to be like, okay, maybe. But this
Yeah. Hey,
is this is
real quick too. You know they're going to be blaring 8 Mile up in that, right? I mean, it's only fitting. My question to you is, who besides Pittsburgh, because we know that, but they're not at home. What other fan base is going to be rocking the towels this weekend? Let's go. We're going new segment by Mamitas, aka my boy Caleb. So we're going. What team or what game is going to have some new towels adding to the legacy? What do you think, Scotty?
Did you say the Lions game would?
I mean I would say Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is going to have theirs, but they're going to be in Buffalo. So
Yeah, no, no. I feel like the Lions will.
Chiefs and Dallas. I
I
don't think
don't.
we're going to see
I don't think the
any.
Chiefs will. I don't think
Yeah,
the Chiefs
we're not going to
will.
see any towels
They're
there.
just trying to
Probably
keep
not
people
Houston
warm.
either.
No, so we're just thinking the Lions and
Tampa Bay or Buffalo. Maybe
I
Buffalo.
think Buffalo. I could see like a blue towel maybe or something. I don't think Tampa will because it's just so warm down there.
Detroit, that blue towel would be hard if they went
Yeah,
blue towel with Detroit.
yeah, blue towel. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Tampa Bay, there's going to be like 10 people there.
it's gonna end up being a great game. Tampa ends up upsetting, and then like somehow goes to what like the Niners next week, pulls
I
off an
mean, does Baker
upset.
Mayfield win comeback player of the year?
No, Joe
Why
Flacco
not?
or Damar Hamlin is gonna win it. Is what everybody's saying.
I mean, I know DeMar, I get that, but Joe,
Yeah,
I mean, like Joe's only played for like what, like less than half of the year, right?
I know,
Yeah.
but he's got more touchdowns than like half the league, is what they said.
Oh man,
Anyway,
Joe sleep on the sideline. He don't need to win that. He already won a ring.
I
He don't
know
need a.
that's pretty funny. So it's crazy that he came back in his division, like the Ravens division. I guess he was with the Jets for a while.
Yeah.
Also, it's funny because the Jets and the Browns are a lot alike. They both had like really good defenses and some decent
Yeah.
skill position players on offense, and one went and got Flacco, and the other did not.
Look at the whole
So
AFC North. Besides, I mean, the Bengals used to have a lot of defense. You have
it's
to
true.
have a defense to even win that
Yeah,
division. So it's
they all finished over 500. That's with a winning record. So pretty
crazy.
impressive stuff. All right, well, that's gonna do it for Super Wild Card Weekend. We'll try to be back here next week for the divisional round, where there will only be what 8 teams left at that point. Yeah, 8 teams will remain. Right now, everybody's alive. Lots of excitement, except for the Bears. They're not in it, but they're
Hey,
trying to.
before we leave, sprinkle a little bit on Kelsey touchdown, a little bit on Jameer Gibbs touchdown, a little bit on CeeDee Lamb touchdown. Come on now.
I like that. I'll take that. All right,
Hey,
that'll do
hey,
for
stay classy, San Diego. We
stay
will see you next
classy.
week. We will be back. Appreciate the follows and the subscriptions, all the comment. We appreciate it. I will say that I'm not talky guy, and I'm trying not to be talky guy, but I'm glad that there is a talky guy in this program. So
We like that. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.